Thank you for checking out Lakehead International's videos. You're about to watch one of our Lakehead International live webinars, a fun and informative way to learn more about Lakehead while also meeting faculty, staff, and current students. If you have any questions throughout today's video, please comment below. Otherwise, let's get started. Hello and welcome to another Lakehead International Live. My name is Jordan Ball. I'll be your host today. First and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to welcome our audience and say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. We're excited to have you, and we're looking forward to sharing more details about employment opportunities here in Canada, as well as how we support that at Lakehead University, as well as financing education through a variety of means, whether that be through budgeting, whether that be through scholarships, awards, or financial aid. A wide range of things that will help you transition more smoothly to your studies here at Lakehead, and of course make your degree more successful. I'm joined by some special guests from our career services and co-op team, as well as our student central team, so I'll introduce them in just a moment. But for those of you who haven't joined a webinar before, my name is Jordan Ball. I'm the International New and Social Media Officer. I help run our live events, our digital experiences, as well as our social media channels. It's my pleasure to be here today and hosting. And I'll pass it over to my colleague Sierra to introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sierra, and I'm the coordinator here on the Thunder Bay campus, but I also support the Aurelia campus as well for career services and co-op.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Sierra. Next, I'll pass it over to Kristen.
Morning, everyone. My name is Kristen Dubik. I'm a student central professional here at the Thunder Bay campus, and I'm here to support you with all of the information regarding financing your education.
And thank you again to both of you for joining me and to our guests. In terms of an agenda, let's chat about what we're going to review today. First, we'll kick things off with an overview of Lakehead University, as well as studying in Canada. And then we're going to chat a bit about our areas of study, and then we'll dive into our employment in Canada slides. And we'll chat about working while you study, our paid cooperative education experience. And then we'll shift gears and we'll chat about scholarships as well as budgeting for university. So quite a bit to cover. On that note, I think it's time to dive into things. So welcome to Lakehead University, folks. We have a lot to be proud of. We are a small but mighty institution. Some of our rankings include being one of the top 3 research universities in Canada, the #1 university in North America with under 10,000 students, in Canada's top 5 universities, and actually the #1 university in Ontario. And why are those rankings so important to us? Of course, it comes from a variety of factors, I'll say, but what it equates to, or what it means for the outcome of our student experience, is really what's important in our eyes. And that includes career success, and that's exactly what we'll chat about today. We actually have one of the highest career success rates in Ontario education right now. So at 97.4% of all grads are employed within 2 years after graduation. That is above the Ontario average, which is 95.1. We are also, as I mentioned, a small but mighty university, so we offer small classroom experiences where you're able to more easily connect with your peers, with your professors, and of course, get support where needed. On the Thunder Bay campus, for every 15 students, there's 1 professor, and on the Aurelia campus, for every 13 students, there's 1 professor. And last but not least, we have over 80 nations represented in our student body. So we have a lot of students that really bring a diverse approach or diverse lens to the learning that we deliver each and every day. And that's something that we feel has enhanced the student experience immensely. Lakehead, by the numbers, just as I noted, we are a small university, so just over 9,000 students, of which 1,900 are international students from around the world. So a vast majority of our students here at Lakehead are still Canadian citizens or domestic students. So you are certainly joining a Canadian university, and you can anticipate that experience. But you'll also have the opportunity to connect with peers and friends from around the world, which is really exciting. Beyond that, and when we look to folks that have left us now and gone on to bigger things and perhaps careers, we have over 72,000 alumni, with them joining us from and spreading across out over 108 countries. As we look to what you could be studying at Lakehead and what perhaps you might be joining us for one day, we of course look at our faculties of study. So first we have business administration, which is actually my alma mater. That's one of the faculties I graduated from. And then we have engineering, science and environmental studies, natural resources management, education, social sciences and humanities, health and behavioral sciences, as well as law. So plenty of faculties with plenty of options. Let's take a peek at what that actually looks like. So first and foremost, our undergraduate programs here up on your screen. Now, I do want to note that aside from engineering and business, we've only listed just the program. So beyond this, you have an opportunity to specialize, to concentrate, to minor, to major in a wide range of topics, which really makes your experience something incredible because you have the ability to customize your degree pathway and find what works for you in terms of where you desire to learn more here at Lakehead University. Something I do want to draw attention to and that we're going to chat about shortly here when we introduce Sierra is the symbol with the handshake there. It means that that program offers a cooperative education experience. So we have business, computer science, engineering, environmental management, environmental sciences, and as well as studies, environmental sustainability, kinesiology, and physics. So those are just the undergraduate programs which offer co-op as we refer to it. But taking a peek at our graduate programs, we have a number of master's programs with several routes. So you could do thesis, project-based, course-based, portfolio-based. There's a wide range of opportunities here. But once again, noting some of our programs in the master's level also offer that co-op experience. But we'll dive into that a bit further. And I will also note if you wish to continue your studies beyond your master's, beyond your undergrad, perhaps, we also have a doctoral suite of programs. So I won't list them there on your screen for that very reason. If you would like, you can scan the QR code at the top right of your screen. It will actually bring you directly to Lakehead's website where you can explore these programs. Seeing the name on the screen doesn't necessarily equate to what that entails or what it offers you. And so I always encourage students, before you're sold on a program, you should absolutely explore it on the website first and verify, is it the right fit for you? What can it offer and what perhaps will be the benefits to selecting Lakehead? So that's a bit about Lakehead University. That is the overview, essentially. And now that we've set the stage to showcase the rankings, the diversity on campus, the program offerings, I think it's time to dive into really the topic at hand, which is employment and financing your education. So for those of you who don't know, one of the reasons, or one of the most popular reasons, I should say, that students select Canada when looking to study abroad is because essentially they're choosing employment as well. During your studies, you'll have the opportunity to work on and off campus. So full-time international students studying in any post-secondary program in Canada are eligible to work while studying. International students are typically eligible for both that on-campus or off-campus employment. And there's a variety of departments and roles actually typically available to students right here on campus that provide a convenient and exciting work environment. Our team here in Lakehead International employs several students. Right now we have 5 in our department and several other within other teams on campus. But that's just a few of the roles. We love having our students contribute to our work and we always see an incredible value in terms of their contributions. And so hopefully one day to our audience now, you may hold a role here on campus, perhaps. But with that being said, we have a lot of on-campus as well as off-campus opportunities outside of just Lakehead University. When you think about working during your studies, you should also think it's not only an opportunity to earn incredible experience, but also an opportunity to earn money that you can put towards your studies. And of course, that all means that it's going to enhance your resume. Upon graduation, you'll be pleased to hear that all of Lakehead University programs are eligible for Canada's postgraduate work permit program for up to 3 years. So that means that if you graduate from engineering, for example, you could perhaps pursue a role in an engineering firm and stay in Canada for at least 3 years. But beyond that, if you love your experience here in Canada, and we sure hope you do, you'll certainly have a strong pathway for permanent residency. And actually, by earning a Canadian degree, you'll receive extra points when applying for that PR application. So that's a quick overview of employment in Canada, but I'm going to pass it over to Sierra to chat more about her team's involvement in career supports and services for students.
Thank you so much, Jordan. So, as I said earlier, I'm the coordinator of career services. What that really means is I support with career advising, skill building when it comes to how to find a job, how to build a resume. We definitely provide resources for students to get them started. We also host a lot of different events. We have panel events, networking events, and career fairs. So you can start interacting with industry on campus starting from your very first year. In addition, my colleague Caitlin runs the cooperative education program. She additionally supports you, whoever ends up being in the co-op program, um, by preparing for job searching, again, ensuring your resume is ready to go, and also connecting you with different resources to help you help you in your co-op job search.
Great, Sarah. I'll pause here and I'll note the photo on the screen is actually from one of the career fairs hosted on the Thunder Bay campus. So this is where typically, if I'm not mistaken, like 50 or 60 employers come for multiple days, and oftentimes we'll have employers even switch out between days. So there's a lot of opportunity and excitement around these days because these employers are not coming to campus just to set up a booth and spend an entire workday on our campus without a return for that. And that return is typically finding really great employees. Another thing I always like to touch on is the fact that because our hometowns of Thunder Bay and Aurelia, we are the only university located in the near vicinity. So that means that these employers know and recognize the value of that university degree and that university student. And we've also had an opportunity for several years now to establish incredible partnerships and relationships where they are always coming back looking to us for potential student workers, whether it be part-time employment or summer employment, and then of course upon graduation, that full-time career. I'll pass back to Sierra to let her chat a bit more about some of the spaces that we call home, or they call home on our campuses.
For sure. So we have two spaces in Aurelia. We have a multi-purpose space. Our colleague Brooke is usually there to support students. And then on this campus, we have the Thunder Bay Career Zone. Our Career Zone on Thunder Bay campus is open Monday to Friday, where the Aurelia Center is open usually 2 days a week. However, there is always someone available via email to support you, and or you can always book individual one-on-one appointments for support.
Great, thank you so much. So I also love chatting about what are the benefits of gaining work experience in Canada. The first one that I always like to touch on, and I've already sort of scratched the surface, is the career advancement and job market readiness that you will build by working part-time and perhaps getting summer jobs and full-time jobs. So practical experience, I mean, that's the first and most important one probably is that you gain that on-job experience in your field, making you more competitive in the job market. You also have skills development, so you'll enhance both soft skills like communication, teamwork, and problem solving, which are incredibly valuable in your career. And I should also note soft skills in Canada may look a bit different than soft skills elsewhere in the world, so it's important that you develop them here. And it almost goes without saying, but we like to remind you stronger resumes. A Canadian work experience makes your CV more attractive to future employers, both in Canada, but also globally. Beyond that, there's a few other key topics that I always like to touch on when we're discussing why should I work in Canada? What are the benefits? So networking and industry connections. Again, being that we are the only universities in our hometowns, we are excited to share the connection between our relationship with these industry partners and perhaps build that bridge between you. So professional contacts helping you build that strong network of colleagues and mentors and of course potential employers. But also by building those connections, oftentimes we've seen our students secure full-time jobs post-graduation, whether it be through part-time work, internships, or co-op positions. It's also important working in Canada that you begin to understand Canadian work culture. So workplace etiquette, exposure to that etiquette and that Canadian business culture improves your adaptability, pardon me, and professionalism. And it also builds on that idea around better integration. So it helps you understand labor laws, workplace rights, and employer expectations, which are incredibly important. And then last but not least, and I leave this intentionally to the last one, the financial benefits are earning money and helping you cover the tuition fees, living expenses, and overall it reduces your financial stress related to studying abroad. I was in your shoes not that long ago, but many years still. And I recognize that when I worked part-time while studying my business degree at Lakehead, there was a lot of financial stress around whether or not I could pay for the next semester, and so I would have to carve out the time to ensure that I had the funds ready in my bank account. But what that really meant was having the ability to focus on a goal and work towards it. For some of you, you may be looking to finance your education through other alternative means. And that doesn't mean, though, that the financial benefit of getting a career while studying or post-graduation won't help you in terms of then just giving you some spending money, perhaps. And we'll chat about that when we pass it over to Kristen for budgeting. But first and foremost, I'm going to shift gears once again and pass it over to Sierra to share more information about cooperative education here at Lakehead.
For sure. So we have different options for co-op. Our co-op program is not mandatory, it is optional. So if you decide to do co-op, all of our information is on our website regarding eligibility, when you can start, who your advisor would be. The range is 4 to 16 months. It very well depends on the program that you're in. You are able to earn from minimum wage, 17.20, to up to $40 an hour. This very much depends on the program, experience, and also the company you're working for. Um, all of our co op positions are in Canada, so it is a really great opportunity for you if you are able to get a position to gain some work experience within your field. So these are some examples of employers that students have worked for. So every student is 100% responsible for seeking out their own co-op employers. However, as I said earlier, Caitlin and I, we are here to guide you through this process. And on the Aurelia campus, you have Jessica and Brooke as well. We support with reviewing resumes. We are more than happy to support if you are interested in working for any of these employers. We are happy to guide you in how best to put your best foot forward.
Right. And Sierra, touching on some of the things you mentioned earlier, of course, some of the key sports that your team offers is that career exploration and job hunting skills. So when students approach your team, of course, and they're interested in a co-op, you set the expectations around perhaps what are the best methods to perhaps find a co-op job or a part-time job or
Absolutely.
that job that's going to be a contract role. And for many of these employers also, the students actually have been able to secure full-time employment post-graduation, which is really exciting. That ties back to the idea of building that network of industry partners and connections. Like Sarah noted, though, we don't guarantee co-op for any of our students, but we are always there to support you in that exploration of what that opportunity looks like. So chatting a bit about what programs you could choose if you were to go in the co-op program. First, I'll pass it over to Sarah, share more about undergrad, and then we'll look at grad as well.
For sure. So for undergrad, as you can see here, these are all the programs we have. We have different advisors for all of these programs. Our office supports mainly with the administration. So just making sure that all of your paperwork is in office. We work closely with the international office as well. So if we have any questions about work permits, co-op work permits, etc., we can always refer you to someone from the IRCC, who's IRCC certified, to discuss with you what your options look like. with respect to work permits. Most of our programs that are noted here can forestry, engineering, business, there is a lot of opportunity. However, I will say you need to keep your mind open. There is plenty of opportunity all over Canada, as I said, and particularly locally, there are opportunities for business students.
Alrighty. So then, shifting gears here and looking at the graduate side, it's a smaller group of programs that offer, but still mighty. So Crystal, or pardon me, Sierra, I'll pass over to you to chat about these as well.
So, yeah, similarly to our undergrad program, the master's program, your co op is a little bit shorter. So, definitely not always 16 months. But similarly, again, we offer the same supports. If you have any questions about the graduate program or the undergrad program, you are welcome to email or call our office at any time to for us to answer more questions for you about it.
Great. And one of the first things students always ask is, when can I go on co-op? So Sarah, I'll let you chat about this slide, and then we'll actually look at some of the co-op term sequences.
For sure. So again, it really depends on your program and if you're undergraduate or graduate. Some students can start as early as their very first summer with faculty permission. Typically, we do recommend third year. We do seem to see that more employers are keen for third year co op students, but it doesn't mean that you're not able to start sooner. Some faculties have it set that you are only allowed to start in your third year. But when Jordan flips us to the sequence, it'll make more sense as to what I'm saying. However, just really keep in mind when you are exploring co op for your program to take a look at your sequence. Don't be shy. Come and ask us plenty of questions. I would hate for anyone to miss out on an opportunity just because they weren't sure if they could start yet or not. So here is what our sequence look like. Online, we also have an eligibility chart that breaks down what the eligibility requirements are for every single co-op program we have. And you can see in the chart here that for some programs, year one is not an option at all, except Bachelor of Science as an example. Whereas in year two, it's an optional for business students to go out, which if you are a business student, I do recommend trying to go out in your second year because for business in particular, employers are a little bit more keen to hire students in their second year.
Great. I will note this chart is actually from last year, I'm just realizing. So if you're looking for a more up-to-date version of the co-op sequencing terms, you can find that on our website. I always like to discuss, though, that the information you've heard today, that you've learned about today, may not reflect the co-op offering identically when you're ready to join co-op at Lakehead. So perhaps if you're joining us this September, fall 2020, you may not be out on co-op for another 16 months, perhaps from today's date. So with that being said, co-op may not look exactly the same, but this just gives you an idea of what you can get excited for and look forward to. And on that note, there's some live questions that are really awesome, and I always like to chat about this. So Hillary, thank you for these. The first one says, during a co-op term or program, do you pay tuition? So no, you do not. You actually will not pay any of your academic tuition fees. You will pay a co-op fee, though. It's an administrative fee that will support that experience and support the co-op team to facilitate it on your behalf. With that being said, it's nominal in comparison. It's just over $700, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And
and if
so, oh,
you, oh, sorry.
no, go
Uh,
ahead.
yeah, if you stay with the same company, so in some instances, you may just be hired for 4 months with one organization, but you need, say, 8 months to get your co op designation. If you go to a different organization, you would pay $700 as an example per term. However, if you stay with the same company for 8 months, your first term you pay the 700, but your second term you would pay substantially less than that. So it does help if you can have a co or stay with one employer for your entire experience, but that's not always the case as well.
Right. And this other question from Frank says, does it come with any additional costs when one chooses to join the co-op program? So technically, yes, because you'll still pay for all years of your Lakehead studies, so tuition fees. You won't double pay them. So like we just noted, you don't pay tuition fees at the same time as completing any of your co-op work terms, but there will be that administrative fee. So there it's slightly more, but in the grand scheme of things, you're also getting paid for that work experience. So you'll probably have that paid off pretty quickly. This question from Frank says, is MBA at the Thunder Bay campus not a part of the co-op program? It is not. So MBA does things a bit differently. They work more closely with community partners to build internships and to have coursework that is more project-based around active, ongoing business problems. I would encourage you, Frank, keep an eye out for some upcoming webinars or check out our YouTube, Lakehead International, for webinars about business at Lakehead, and you can learn more about MBA and what they offer. From there, we're going to shift gears and we're going to chat a bit about budgeting for university. So I'll pass it over to Kristen, perhaps to introduce the key terms and the idea of budgeting for university, just to set the stage and start to get you ready for what we're going to chat about over the next few slides.
Thanks so much, Jordan. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for letting me chat with you a bit about financing your education today. So, in terms of just understanding kind of key terms when we're talking about financing your education, a need when we're talking about financials is something that's a necessity. It's something that's required. It's essential for life. So, this is things like food, shelter, clothing and wants. So wants are a desire something, wish for that's non-essential. So, that second pair of running shoes, um, the latest jeans, what have you. And now a priority. So this is something that you want to do because it's more important than other things. So it's important financially to set those priorities, and ensure that your needs are going to be met. And so overall, when we're looking at a budget, it's essentially looking at creating a plan to manage your income and your expenses and ensure that you spend wisely and meet your financial goals during your study. So when we look at a budget at a university level, we want to look at what our resources are. So meaning our, loans, perhaps our savings, and then looking at a time frame for spending. And so some of those resources that I want to kind of talk about, you may have summer savings from summer jobs. Perhaps parents or your family are supporters in your university finances. Perhaps you have a part-time job. There's lots of great scholarships, awards, and bursaries that are internal to Lakehead once you become a student with us that I will talk about in a little bit of time. Perhaps your government within your current community offers benefits or rebates of you becoming a student. And then, of course, there are loans through banks that students can access. In terms of expenses, for those that are incoming from high school, well, the difference now is that you're going to be paying for tuition and associated fees with being a student. Books and equipment are also a cost. Depending on whether you're going to be living on campus with residents or perhaps off campus, so housing. Food is an essential. Entertainment is also a valuable thing that you need to put in your budget because it's important for there to be some off and fun time. Personal care, and of course, transportation. So in terms of fees, this kind of gives you a little sense of what your expected fees could be as an undergraduate and a graduate student. Most undergraduate students are going to be attending school between September and April, so for an 8-month period. Graduate students typically are continuously enrolled, so they are usually kind of around the clock until their program is finished. So in terms of tuition, you can see kind of the differences of fees. Ancillary fees are some of the fees that would be associated with you being a student and accessing some of the resources here on campus. They are, for the most part, not optional or opting out. They are part of kind of the fees you're responsible for. It's important to budget for books. And then in terms of on campus, you're going to see, obviously it looks expensive and it is expensive. But in a grand scheme of things, this is including room and food. If you're thinking about maybe staying on campus and perhaps just doing room only because you have some good cooking skills, um, that's an option too. And then UHIP. So this is something that you would pay as an international student for health insurance to help you when you're here to ensure you are healthy and well to attend your classes. And then personal expenses. It's important to kind of budget this in terms of, and this is, if I want to just say, this is probably more so a budget that you want to put for that total time frame. So that 8 months for our undergraduate students and for our this isn't a monthly budget. This is a total so you could break it down monthly if you wanted to. But this kind of gives you a sense of that total amount of fees that you would be expected to cover.
Right. Thank you, Kristen. I'll also note for those who are curious, sort of where we come up with these numbers for personal expenses. We actually polled international students studying at Lakehead, and we did a survey to see on average how much they were spending each month. And so then we broke it down by undergrad and grad. And we really realized that they're spending a similar amount, and so we took that and broke it down by semester. So you can see for 8 months it's 1,500, so about $750 for every 4 months or for every term. And that's where you get that additional added cost on the grad side because it's looking at a 12-month budget. These are, though, estimates, though. So perhaps you need to be a little more frugal in some terms. You need to cut back on the dining out, the getting the hair done, that sort of thing. That's okay. We will have those conversations with you if you're struggling and you need support in terms of understanding how to finance, how to budget. If you need to sit down with us, even that's what we're here for in terms of supporting our students. But there's also some incredible tools online. So I'll pass back to Kristen to chat a bit more about the cost estimator at Lakehead, but also then some of the budgeting tools available on government websites.
Thanks, Sharon. So, in terms of a cost estimator, this is a great resource that we have on our website, and I believe it's on our international site. So, it's helpful in terms of, making that estimate type of graduate studies or undergraduate studies. Perhaps different programs have different costs, so it's important to manipulate the data to ensure that it's covering the proper fees, and then depending on the accommodations. So this is a nice little tool that you can use and access on our website to help you in terms of just really finalizing that budget, at least finalizing the expenses of creating that budget. So why is budgeting so important? Well, a budget is so important because it helps you kind of outline your income, perhaps from scholarships, maybe jobs, maybe loans, and then it helps kind of reference the expenses that you'll have as a student. So your tuition, rent, food, transportation. It's going to help you in tracking your spending, identifying areas where you can save, and it's also going to help you achieve your financial goals. And so, in terms of students, it's really important that students have a budget because finances can be tight and it can help you in creating a good budget that you don't overspend and create more debt. So what is a budget? Why a budget as a student? Well, firstly, you want to have financial control. So budgeting is going to give you control of your money, and it's also going to help you make informed decisions about your spending. It's also going to help you in terms of managing debt because debt is not necessarily a bad thing in terms of loans. Loans helps create, credit scores, at least on a Canadian perspective. And by, managing your student loans and other debt, debts and tracking payments, it'll help you potentially make extra contributions as well by making a budget. And making a budget as well as helping you save for the future. So it can help you in terms of future expenses, perhaps emergencies, or maybe even post-graduation goals. So those are kind of some reasons of why to make a budget. What things to consider? Of course, we kind of talked a little bit about some of the factors that you want to look at in terms of your expenses. And we do have some really great budget tools. We have a really great spreadsheet that we use here in Student Central that can kind of help you, a template, if you will, that you can kind of enter in your data so you can visually see what the expenses are and what the resources are. And we can work with you in terms of helping you stick to your budget. Yeah, so I think next slide, thanks. So in terms of budgeting, the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, this is a really great site that you can access, and it's a way for you to kind of create, again, a personalized budget based on your situation, based on your age, based on perhaps your work status. Most students obviously are working on a part-time basis. And this is a great place to maybe start as well, just in terms of maybe this is your first time budgeting. Maybe this is the first time that you have had to think about your money in a different way. And these are kind of life skills that I think will come in handy after graduation as well.
For sure, Kristen, I like how you phrased it that this budget will help you reflect your personalized situation, your current situation. Not everyone's is a copy and paste identical to one another, and so sitting across the room from some of your classmates, they may have a very different budget situation or personal situation that when you see them go out and spend frivolously, it may not be the same case for you or and what you can financially afford. And that's okay. Everyone has a unique budget, but this tool is really helpful. I remember I did it coming out of university when I was paying for those, but I got my full-time job, and it it opened my eyes to say the least. In terms of preparing for what's next and then writing down my primary budget goals and seeing like what was attainable in my future. But I wish I had known about this earlier, to be frank, during university, because I'm sure that perhaps maybe I could have graduated with a few extra bucks in my bank. But nonetheless, is something that we would strongly recommend each student does. And if you're not sure how, you can always scan the QR code on your screen here today, and that will actually bring you right to the appropriate resource. With that being said, I think we're going to shift gears here and we're going to chat a bit about budgeting for university through scholarships, bursaries, and awards. So financing your education is an important topic, of course, and we've discussed that already, but we're really proud of the fact that Lakehead University is recognized as the #1 in Ontario for student awards. We also have one of Canada's most generous scholarship programs for undergraduate international students. So let's take a peek at what that looks like. Again, this is an entrance scholarship for undergrad students, something that we'll automatically consider you for. There's no additional scholarship application required for this. So if you're in your home country in high school, in your home country or another country studying a college diploma or university degree, and you have yet to complete either of those credentials at the post-secondary level, so you've not completed your degree or your diploma, and or you're transferring and joining us out of high school, we're going to look for your academic average, and we'll calculate that by looking at your top 6 most recent grades. So in grade 12, we'll look for the best 6 grades. We want to give you the benefit of being rewarded financially, hopefully. So if you fall somewhere between a 75 and 79.9, or on the IB scale for those students that are in that curriculum, a 28 to 29, we're going to be looking at a one-time scholarship of $6,000 Canadian that you'll receive in year 1 only. If you are joining us between an 80 and 89.9 or a 30 and 34, you'll receive a scholarship of $7,500. But this is where we introduce renewable scholarships. And I'll come back to that in a second. But first, I want to chat about our top scholarships. So those top academic achievers that hopefully are on today's webinar, if you're somewhere over a 90% or 35 plus, you're going to receive $10,000 in your very first year, which is really incredible. It takes a significant chunk of the cost of your undergraduate degree out of that equation, essentially. But then, as I noted, the top two scholarships are something we call renewable. And so that's where you see the times 4 years. So in your first year, if you join us at the 90% or over, for example, and you get $10,000 towards your first year of studies, maybe first year goes really well and you maintain your average over 90% at Lakehead, you'll receive $10,000 in year two, which is awesome. Maybe year two proves to be a bit more challenging, as it typically does. Perhaps you falter a bit and you drop below the 90, but you're still above an 80. You'll actually receive the $7,500 in year three. And you can still receive that in year four. If you are joining us in the middle there and you receive the 8,000, pardon me, the 7,500 at 80 plus, maybe you get it for the first couple of years, but if you do fall below that 80, unfortunately, you do lose out on the scholarship. But that's not the only scholarship, or pardon me, that's not the only financial aid that you are eligible for here at Lakehead. There's additional awards and bursaries that are available internally to Lakehead students. So as soon as you become a Lakehead student, you'll be able to complete something called your My Awards profile, which I like to simplify it and say it's essentially a questionnaire that will get to know you a bit better and will actually match you to some of the awards and bursaries that you should be eligible for. Most of them do not require additional applications. Some of them may require a short essay or even an interview. And those committees will then review based on the criteria set out by whoever established that award or bursary. So myself, I received an industry bursary from a private company because I was one of the marketing students in business. I definitely wasn't the top academic achiever in my major, though, so it wasn't based around academic success, which was really great. But it just goes to show you that there are quite a few awards. We have over $11 million actually in awards and bursaries, as well as scholarships. So it's something that we're really proud of. But you can learn more about that when you join Lakehead. For our grad students, those joining a master's program or a doctoral program, your funding opportunities are limited, and I like to be upfront and clear about that because typically Lakehead is looking for students that can fully fund their own education at the graduate level. However, with that being said, that doesn't mean that you don't have the possibility to participate in the graduate assistantship program or receive a faculty research scholarship. So first, the graduate assistantship program. You may be asking, what is it? Well, if you're familiar with an assistantship, a TA, a GA, some of those hot terms that people refer to it, that's what this is. It's an employment contract with Lakehead University, or more specifically, your academic unit, NU. You're essentially awarded at the time of admission, and it goes to a very limited number of typically thesis or research-based applicants. Um, if you receive a faculty or research scholarship, again, typically goes towards thesis or research students. You may be eligible for grants or contracts through your academic department. But this is also based on their own funding. So oftentimes our professors will secure government funding or grants. And as a part of that, say, $1 million funding, the professor then determines how they need to spend that, whether it's going to be resource allocation related to equipment that they need to purchase as a part of the project at hand, whether it's space allocation and finding the right campus location, but also staffing resourcing. So then they look to see whether or not they need to hire full-time staff to support that research, or perhaps consider giving students scholarships, which will still help support the research. So those are just a few of the graduate funding opportunities. Once again, grad students are also eligible for the My Awards portal, and they are eligible to receive some of that internal funding if they meet that criteria. With that being said, that's a quick overview of our presentation today. I know we just scratched the surface of many of these topics, and that's what this webinar is intended to do. It's supposed to spark conversation around some of these topics to get you thinking, and then, of course, hopefully, meaning that you'll come down to one of our spaces, one of our offices when you arrive on campus and get a better understanding. It is that time of the webinar, though, where everyone gets really excited because we're going to answer your questions live now. Um, so I'll dive into it, but before I do that, I want to note, I see in the webinar chat quite a few students may have posed questions over there. If you've posed a question in the webinar chat, please move it over to the Q&A. It's a separate section, just so that we don't lose it, and we want to keep track of it and get to answer that. So with that being said, I'll dive into the Q&A. The first one says, how soon should I expect an admission decision from MPH? So Master of Public Health is, I will say fairly frankly, known to take quite some time to review the applications. They want to find the right candidates for their program and make sure that the candidates or the applicants that they offer seats to are going to be a good fit for Lakehead University. So with that being said, unfortunately, I don't have a timeline on when you should expect an admission decision. I do know that offers are rolling as we speak, so they are starting to be sent out specifically for Masters of Public Health. So keep an eye on your Lakehead email as well as your graduate application portal. You will receive updates as soon as they are made over there. This question says, could you please provide instructions on how to apply for the Nurses Awards? So like we said earlier, when you actually start your program here at Lakehead, so when you start nursing, you'll be eligible to apply for something called My Awards, which is Lakehead's Scholarship Awards and Bursaries portal. And that's actually where you can look into funding that is both specifically related to the nursing program. So perhaps there may be select awards that you are eligible for, but also there could be awards that you had never heard of and they're specific to Lakehead. And they're just going to look for a student that maybe demonstrates academic success or demonstrates a financial need. There's a wide range of criteria. So unfortunately, I can't tell you specifically which ones that you may be looking at. But like I said earlier, it is something pretty awesome that it matches you based on the criteria that you shared with us. Yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
I just wanted to say, so Jordan's talked a little bit about the My Awards portal that you'll get access to. So it's a really great portal. There's two kind of applications that you'll get access to. There's a general application, which essentially will just collect data about you as a student and your profile. And then it's also encouraged that you complete the financial need application, which will determine kind of your needs. And obviously, this is where that budget comes in. And so with a combination of completing both of those questionnaires, you'll be auto matched, as Jordan had mentioned, for any opportunities that kind of match your criteria. So you don't even need any extra steps for those auto matches to happen. There may be other opportunities in addition to those auto matches that, as Jordan had mentioned, might require an additional step like a resume, perhaps an essay, an interview, that kind of thing. So lots of money available to you once you become a student.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. Hillary, great question. It says, how can I apply for a TA? So our graduate assistantship program is not application based necessarily. It is something that each academic unit will determine if they can offer any graduate assistantships for the upcoming term or for that cycle, that intake. And so, for example, if you were joining, I'll say computer science at the master's level, they may look to say, we're going to admit a few hundred students this year. However, we may only have a handful, maybe even 5 graduate assistantships. So, like I said earlier, it's very limited in terms of availability, and that's typically why we're looking for students that can fund their education on their own. Um, However, if you don't receive that graduate assistantship when you first receive your letter of acceptance from Lakehead University, it doesn't mean that you can't work closely with your graduate coordinator or your supervisor to show why you would be a great graduate assistant. You can showcase your skills and your passion for the program, and hopefully make an evidenced case around the idea that perhaps they should consider you for that opportunity at an upcoming term. But there is no guarantee with that being said, of course. This question says, how many hours can an international student work at part-time jobs? They can work up to 24 hours per week as an international student during scheduled breaks. So during the fall and the winter reading week, for example, you can actually work full-time hours. And then if you are an undergrad student and you have your summers off, or from May until August, you can also work full-time hours during that period, which is really helpful, of course, for earning money that will go towards your tuition and other expenses. This question says I want to pursue a BBA at Lakehead University and would like to know if they accept transfer credits from a private university in Bangladesh. So a BBA, I'm assuming, is a Bachelor of Business Administration. With that being said, we offer the Honors Bachelor of Commerce program or the Bachelor of Business Administration 3-year program here at Lakehead University. We do consider transfer credits from all institutions worldwide. What we will do, though, of course, is we'll assess the credentials of that institution first and foremost to ensure that it is equivalent to that of Lakehead University. And then what we would do is work with you to gather some of those course syllabi, course outcomes, all that sort of stuff. And then once you share with our admissions team, the transfer credit specialist will work more closely with our faculty of business in this case to assess those and see whether or not any transfer credits would be eligible to come into your degree. I will note, of course, if you've completed several years at your current institution, you should not anticipate a one-to-one transfer. Typically, it is a select number of courses that we find suitable in terms of satisfying requirements or topics that we already deliver. But it won't be a one-to-one transfer. So you will have several years ahead of you still to complete Lakehead's degree. This question from Frank says, I'm an upcoming MBA student. I received my LOA within this week, and one of my conditions is that I satisfy the GMAT or GRE exam scores. I already hold a master's degree from UK. Can I get GMAT, GRE exam waived? In my experience, the only time that a GMAT or GRE score is waived is when you are an internal Lakehead business student who is then moving directly into their master's level of study. However, Frank, I would encourage you connect directly with your grad coordinator or supervisor in the faculty of business to confirm whether or not they would consider that waiver. I can't speak on their behalf, and quite frankly, I'm not a graduate admissions officer either, and so I can't say whether or not they would consider that as a suitable experience to waive the score. This next question, how many terms or semesters does one-year course-based master's computer science have? How much is the tuition fees per term? So what I'll do is I'll pause there I'll actually share a link with everyone. If you visit lakeheadu.ca/tuition, that will bring you directly to our website where you can find the cost estimator and fees for the current academic year. I don't know the fees for computer science or for that matter, any program off the top of my head, unfortunately. But what I will say is if you're looking at any of our one-year master's programs, that's 3 academic terms typically. In some cases, you may think it's a one-year program, and oftentimes it could actually be a 16-month program. And so that would actually be 4 academic terms. So just look into it a bit further. You can always determine that by connecting directly with the grad coordinator of the program or connecting with our graduate admissions team. And we're happy to confirm those details for you if you're a little unsure. We don't hide this information on our website, but I know that it can be overwhelming with the amount of information over there. Can a student on a GA still work for an additional 10 hours in a week to complete the 24 hours? Absolutely, yeah. So as long as you don't go over that maximum, you are more than welcome to fill it with an alternative work arrangement or another employer. With that being said, of course, I would encourage you, make sure that you have the time carved out for your studies. That's what you're here for, number one, first and foremost, the most important thing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Alrighty. So I could take maybe a couple more questions. It's just about 10 o'clock here, though. But in the meantime, before I let everyone go, I do want to remind you where you can find us. You can follow us and stay connected on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Our handle or our channel is at Lakehead International. If you wish to explore our beautiful campuses from the comfort of your own home, you can do so by visiting lakeheadu.ca/tours. This is a virtual campus tour, so like I said, you can do it from anywhere in the world, but the comfort of your own home is a good start. But it will also give you a good perspective as to sample lecture halls, some of the student spaces on campus, residents on campus. And of course, you will get a sneak peek, if I'm not mistaken, of the two spaces of our guests, Student Central as well as Career and Co-op Services. So that is a great place to check out and start to get a taste of what Lakehead is like. This one says, hello. I have received my letter of acceptance and I have paid for my PAL and confirmation deposit, but I haven't received my provincial attestation letter. Please, I would like to know how long it takes to get my PAL. So if you've paid the deposit, first and foremost, it can take up to 5 business days to receive that payment on our end and process. It can take even longer in other circumstances. So depending on when you initiated that payment, please have patience with us as we work through receiving that. And then typically once we receive the payment, we do our very best to process the PAL and get it issued back to you within 3 to 5 business days. With that being said, if you have been waiting for a substantially longer time, I would encourage you to reach out to pal.intl@lakeheadu.ca. I'll put it in the Zoom chat right now. That is the email for our PALS coordinator, and they will absolutely help you and ensure that they're looking into your case. Last question of today's webinar here is, I'm in the process of a study permit for Masters of Science in Civil Engineering. Could you suggest me to check the past year question papers, syllabus, and with details topics for each term? That's a great question. So right now, if you go on our academic calendar, you'll be able to explore the current requirements to complete a Master's of Science in Civil Engineering. So that's going to detail exactly which courses are required and where you perhaps have a little flexibility around open credits. With that being said, if you would like to explore course syllabi, and more details about what's going to be offered in that course, I would encourage you to reach out to the professors directly. Unfortunately, we don't have a central repository of all of those syllabi available. And so you would need to connect individually, and you can do so quite easily because all of our professors are listed within Lakehead University's online directory. Alrighty, folks, it's that time. Thank you so much to our special guests, Kristen and Sierra, for joining us. It's been my pleasure to be the host. And thank you to our audience for so many questions and keeping our session engaged and exciting. It was my pleasure, but we'll wrap it up here and say bye for now. Hopefully, we'll see you at an event in the near future. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, I want to encourage you to comment below or connect with us on social media. We can be found at Lakehead International on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching once again, and hopefully we'll see you at the next live webinar. Bye for now.